Attention! It is time to change the channel. Live from Philadelphia, it's Mr. Pritchard's Art Room.
Welcome back to the show. I am your host, Mr. Pritchard, and this is Mr. Pritchard's Art Room. I hope everybody's safe and well, and we have a great lesson today. We're going to be talking about calligraphy, going into abstract art. Now, recently, I've discovered a link between calligraphy coming from Asia into abstract art. And it was really interesting to me to realize how much the style of calligraphy handwriting from a long time ago has aspects of abstract art into it. We're going to start off by going over some of the writing, how to make the ink that's used, the sumi ink. I have a little video for that. And then we're going to get into some modern artists that are taking calligraphy and that style and branching off into the world of abstract art. So first things first, let's get into the calligraphy writing. So here is a very large scale example of calligraphy writing. It's beautiful. I have some ink in the water behind that to give the effect of how this ink just flows. Now the idea with the writing too and the art is this idea of harmony. Also, for a person to express their feelings, and it comes from the heart. Here are some examples of these character letters. Now, when I was taught how to write in Japanese in college, it had to be done in one brushstroke the way we were taught. It just was this emotional feeling. Sometimes, like these here, they give an appearance like an animal. Pretty interesting. Got some more examples here of some calligraphy writing. Now, as I said, we're going to go from calligraphy writing into art. You'll notice how the letters kind of flow and they have movement to them, like dance. Also, some symbols in early artwork. The symbol on the left stands for the mind, like a circle. On the right is Bai, which means heaven. Here's a couple more of those symbols for heaven with a dragon in them. Oh, I have a dragon flying in the background of this image also. Let's go to the video. So here is an artist making sumi ink. In the classroom, I have it in a container. This artist is going to make it with some water, and he rubs the sumi ink stick on it to grind it down, and it kind of falls down into that little well. Pretty interesting. I imagine it helps one to focus before making art too, that you're putting this much effort into making one's artwork. And you're a big part of it. You're not just picking up something to draw with, you're making something to actually make art with. It's going to go into making some different brush strokes that I wanted to show. Sometimes artists might add a little water to the ink, and for me, it'll actually change the consistency of it to make it less dark, less of a darker shade and more of a lighter gray tone. Some of the brushwork we're going to see in here too, the artist might have the brush kind of like the hairs are in different directions, so it makes a different brush stroke. Sometimes they push harder, they push softer. As I said, if the brush are apart, it gives this kind of fan look to it with pieces missing in the middle. I have a couple examples to show. Watch how fast this artist works with the sumi. Taking their time, huh? Turning the brush in different directions, different techniques. This almost feels like a leaf, gently pushing the brush from a side. lightly pushing on the tip to get a thin little line. What a big difference in the beginning. I pushed hard and got that really thick, big line. Remember, it's all about emotions. That feeling that comes from your heart. Wow, that's another version pushing really, really hard. The ink is starting to change too. It's getting a light gray. Must be running out of ink, or maybe more water got on the brush. Ah, that's where the brush is starting to change, like it's starting to separate the hairs. So we're going to get a different feeling to the lines now. It looks like 5 or 6 separate lines. Ooh, that's neat. Oh, there's that symbol from earlier, the circle. Next artist I show you is going to work really, really fast. And then the last artist I show you is not going to necessarily be doing calligraphy, writing, and symbols. It's more of a real scene. You ready to move to the faster artist? Can someone change the channel? Are we changing the channel yet? Changing it. Whoa, this person's working fast. Whoa. It's coming out so thick and watery. You know, this is the idea, like, abstract art coming from this. Years later, hundreds of years later, Jackson Pollock is doing a style very similar to this with drip painting. Yet this idea in calligraphy writing in Asia has been around a long time. Here's our last artist who said it's more of a realistic scene. Just to have an artist doing something a little different when it comes to the sumi ink and the brushwork. And then we'll get into more modern artists that we're going to study. Seems to be adding some leaves. Feels like bamboo. So here is our first artist, Chi Wang, otherwise known as Cici Wang. Beautiful style, beautiful. Known as a literati artist. I have a little quote, 2 quotes actually, about what a literati artist is. And please excuse me if I mispronounce anything. Here's the quote. The literati painting, or Wenreha, is the ideal form of the Chinese scholar painter, who has more interest in personal edification and expression than in the literal representation or an immediate attractive surface beauty. Here's our second crow. A literati artist. A great literati painting work shows the artist's eyes, heart, and brush on clouds, petals, mountains, rivers, raindrop, breezes, seasons, among other natural elements, joining forces to express the painter, poet's inner emotions. That's powerful. So going back again to the idea we talked about with harmony and expressing feelings that comes from the heart. There's a lot of powerful emotions in the artwork. I put this last one on here because it's kind of the opposite. We have like black paper or canvas with white lettering. It's beautiful. It's the reverse. Let's move into our next artist. Our next artist is Saburo Hasegawa. There he is on the left with the arrow pointing to him, and a piece of his artwork on the far left. Real interesting maze feel to it with the symbols in art. Here's a bigger example. We have that style, the calligraphy art within his art, that brushwork, the emotion, the feeling, the flow to it. Here are two more. The one on the right is kind of interesting. We have this wheel house feeling to it. The one on the left kind of reminds me of the first one on the left with the different symbols in the artwork. Also on the right, the different variations of tone within the ink. This is our next artist, Matsumi Kimiza. The artwork has this folding sensation, almost like clothes folding on themselves, or giant ripples, almost like a wave. Bright colors too in the first example, cherry red and blue blueberry. Here is a quote from the artist. To me, I want my work to be like life. Everything that is different or opposite to be in balance, like yin and yang, negative and positive, day and night. I want to be just like sunshine, like moon. Has a giant piece of the artwork. It has this brushstroke feel to it. Again, a smaller wave feel though. We have several more examples from the artist. The one on the right kind of reminds me of that circle design we talked about earlier. And on the left has some dots and more brushstrokes and different tonal variations of gray. We have black all the way to gray to white. So very much differences in tone quality. This one, the same kind of deal. We have that brushstroke similar to what we studied in calligraphy, yet a lighter tone. I wonder if the artist has a lot of water in the sumi ink. This piece reminds me kind of the first piece. We're back to having colors in it and giant kind of curve shapes in there. Almost gives the feeling that they're cut out pieces of paper to form circles and curves. I kind of notice a face in the image. Here is our next artist, Minoru Calabato. Image on the right is in more red cherry. It has kind of lines streaming down. The one on the left has some designs, a diamond triangle, and a lot of different tonal variations in the variations of that black. One more image from the artist has a little bit of cherry red and a lot of curves from the black and gray tones. Kind of reminds me of spider webs or leaves. Here is our next artist, Suo Seizawa. Very quick gestural feel to the artwork. Similar to the artist in the video that works really, really fast, almost splatter paint feel. Does have some tonal variations in there also, yet very quick. A couple more here done in color. A lot of building up of layers of color in the first one with that gold, lemon yellow, that purple grape, that green mint. Second one is mostly red cherry and black licorice. Here is an image of the artist Chuang Chang on the left with one of the artist's paintings, and on the right is an image. The image on the right kind of reminds me of an individual. I kind of can make out a face. These images have a lot going on to them. They almost remind me of piles of leaves, like a lot going on in a single image. Muted colors, not a lot of vibrant colors, a little bit of lemon yellow, a little bit of cherry red, yet very muted, natural, earthly colors. This one here has a feel more of the calligraphy. Some of the lettering characters are coming through. This is back to the original kind of style in the first one. We have similar aspects of drip painting, all kinds of different things going on. We have two artists left. This is the artist Don On. On the left, an image of the artist with a piece of artwork. On the right, one of the artist's paintings. Beautiful, big gestural brush strokes. This one is bright blue blueberry, cherry red, purple grape, lemon yellow, green mint. Here's a couple more images of the artist. That is a very large piece of artwork the artist is working on. Beautiful brush strokes. Seems to have a lot of emotions. I saved my favorite for last. This is the artist Xian Moi. The artist is on the left, an image of the artist is on the right. To me, I feel like it's a combination of everything we've been studying, from the calligraphy, letters, the designs, and all together into these forms, and they're beautiful. We have these curved shapes, we have the shapes going into objects that resemble faces, and the colors. You have to love the bike race here. Took me a minute to figure out with the tires and the people what was going on. Just a beautiful artist taking all these forms and curved shapes and lines and forming it into a beautiful emotional artwork. It's great art. Now this one, I was a little confused about with the artist. Kind of reminded me of tree bark, yet the more and more I look at it, it has these curved shapes that resemble eyes and nose and a mouth. What are your thoughts on the lesson today? What are your thoughts on Asian calligraphy going into the idea of abstract art? Studied a lot of different artists today. Some were Japanese, some were Chinese. We're going to move into combining these styles of calligraphy and abstract art together to try in our classroom. We're going to start using Sumi ink in the classroom to practice some of these forms and using harmony and emotions that come deep from our heart to express ourselves. Let's move into the art production.